So I started my real estate career at the beginning of 2021. I was lucky enough to land a position with a high-performing agent at Place Estate Agents in New Farm. He was selling real estate in the top end of the market, predominantly architectural homes all over Brisbane, and I worked as his associate for 18 months before going out on my own, changing offices to Place Kangaroo Point, and since then I've been selling units predominantly in Brisbane, CBD and surrounding suburbs. So real estate and property was always an underlying interest of mine. That would be the first factor that drew me into becoming a real estate agent. Second, I love the promotional marketing, advertising aspect of the job, not being confined to limitations or a box that I have to operate within. I get to promote myself, brand myself, and advertise property in any way I see fit. I love the freedom that it gives me, and finally the uncapped earning potential. It's one of those industries where it's very performance related. Your reward is what you put in, and I like that. The more I do, the more value I create for clients, the more value I get out of it, and with that I can create positive change. So I'm coming up on just over 2.5 years in the industry, and as a lead agent I've successfully transacted 30 or close to 30 properties. My time in the industry, including being an associate to another agent, collectively it would be somewhere between 60 and 80 transactions in that 2.5 year period. My first year in real estate was an experience. 2021, the market was churning like crazy and I came into it with zero previous experience at all. So I was very much thrown in the deep end. It was sink or swim, and I was lucky enough to have a patient and very well experienced mentor who guided me through that time. The first 6 months were honestly terrifying, but once I found my feet, I began to excel in what I was doing just with my job, and then differentiate myself and hone in on my skills that I were identifying as my strengths. I would say to anyone who is starting in the industry, come into it with a high degree of resilience. It's an emotional roller coaster. You can't expect to make or earn a lot of money at the beginning. That takes time. Once you build your brand, your reputation, and you start to win business, you can't expect to do that straight off the bat. So come into it with a high degree of resilience and patience. It's a hard one to answer because I genuinely love being a real estate agent and the opportunity that I get to live out every single day. My least favorite thing would probably be the turbulence of the industry and being an operator in the industry. You know, you can go from such a high to such a low within a second. If a contract falls over, if something unexpected happens, and then you have to deliver that information to your client, that can be challenging. There's nothing I don't like about it. It's more so there are big challenges in the industry that sometimes make it difficult, but if it was difficult, everyone would do it and everyone would be successful at it. I identified and came into the industry knowing that there was no one in Brisbane really leveraging social media to its full extent. And I came from a background of social media marketing, working in e-commerce and building platforms on Instagram and TikTok. So when I came into the industry, I knew that was going to be my tact and my edge, and I've executed on that plan. Now 2.5 years in, I have an audience of close to 70,000 people, all interested in the real estate that I promote and sell, and that has been my biggest superpower in the industry. Becoming a property specialist is something that I definitely want to do, because when I came into the industry, I was working for an agent who was specialising in architectural. I've identified an opportunity in the apartment market within the city, but since building this social media platform, I am starting to branch out more into the higher end, listing bigger homes that require more exposure to achieve greater prices. So high end is where I would like to be, but at the moment I've been achieving good success in the unit market in Brisbane. Social media and technology have been a huge proponent of the success that I've had. I came into the industry fortunate enough to have a mentor who showed me the fundamentals and basics of real estate, and I had some really good foundations there. And then what I've added to it with my social media makes me, I feel, a more compelling option as a real estate agent. So being able to create massive exposure for a property is my superpower and is how I use technology and social media. For example, a property we just listed, I created a video, nothing fancy, just user-generated content. And since posting it on my platforms, it's had over 400,000 views, and that's converted into 1,000 listing views on REA and Domain. And that sort of exposure another agent couldn't create. It's only me with that platform or someone else with that platform who can create that level of exposure for a property. I come from a background in property economics, so reading and looking at things from a data scientific point of view is something that I'm used to. I like researching the market. Staying up to date is easier than it's ever been. There's no excuse for not having that knowledge. It's just a matter of searching on the right sort of platform. So I use brisbanedevelopment.com.au to see what developments are happening in Brisbane, Urban Developer, Courier Mail. Just pick and choose what you read and what you actually believe. But a lot of my own research too, talking to my peers, asking how their weekends were, how their weeks are, what's the volume like in the business. All of these factors summarize and deliver a sort of perception of how the market is. Really, you just need to have you need to be on the front foot on finding out where the activity is in the market, and you kind of draw up a conclusion from that. I would like to manifest a positive story. I've just listed a property in Carindale, a very, very big family home. They were with an agent who was unsuccessful selling the property for 4 months. And they reached out to me and said, Andrew, we need more exposure. We need more marketing for the property. It's not being seen by the right people. Since taking that listing over, and it's my biggest listing to date, since taking it over, we've reached hundreds and thousands of people in the Brisbane market, and we've already had multiple offers on that property where the previous agent never got any offers. We haven't sold it yet, but I have no doubt that we will sell it within the coming weeks, and that might be my best success story for my clients and for me to date. So in addition to all of your standard strategies that you would use, such as high-end photography, high-end floor plan draws, video marketing, and publishing those on platforms like REA and Domain, I always recommend that my clients invest in the premium products so you get more screen real estate on those listing platforms. At the end of the day, you want to create as much exposure and quality exposure for this property as possible so that your odds of getting that successful sale are higher. In addition to those standard practices, social media has been a huge platform for me to advertise property on, and I have generated dozens of inquiries and offers straight through my DMs by marketing property on social media channels like TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Pricing property is one of the most challenging but important parts of the role, and I like to take emotion out of it and provide the data when I have that conversation with a seller. I like to understand where their perception of the value is, and if they are way up here and in reality the market is down here for the property, I like to get them to justify why there is that difference in value. If I can see where they're coming from and agree, I will back them and I will defend that price as much as I can. But quickly in the first 2 weeks of a campaign, if it doesn't seem like the market is there at that value, I'm very honest and deliver firm feedback about where the market realistically is for their property so they can make a quick decision about potentially reducing. I am flexible on a point of view. I'm not going in there adamant about what a property is worth. I'm listening to an owner. I understand they have sentimental value that they place on the property, but I also come in with my own arsenal of information to defend where the real market value is, and we usually meet on middle ground. Communication is everything in this industry. It's not all just marketing, glitz and glamour. It's a lot of phone calls, it's a lot of text messaging, it's a lot of emailing, finding out how you can help solve their problems. At the end of the day, you are a problem solver. So communication is everything, always knowing what they're after to the finest detail, what they're prepared to spend, when they're looking to act. You can never get enough information, so I like to communicate more than probably most people would, with phone calls to my clients daily. And if I have a very genuine buyer on the hook, I will value that, and I will service them as best as I can, because at the end of the day, if you have someone that's out there ready to purchase, if you can find them something, then it's an awesome outcome. And the odds are, if you can help someone buy, they'll choose to use you as a selling agent in the future. When negotiating with a buyer, and if there's a large disparity between the buyer's offer and the seller's asking price, what I like to do is give the buyer confidence that they're not overpaying. No one wants to overpay in a market right now where it feels a little bit rocky. What I'll do is provide confidence by saying there are other buyers who see value and interest in this property at this price, and your offer is here. Our sellers are realistic about their price. Trust me, I've given them all of the information in the market that you're referencing to me as well. They're aware of the sales that you're bringing to me. But at the end of the day, the other portion of the buyer market are up here and you're down here. If you want the property, you're going to have to meet the rest of the buyers, because at the moment, we're not going to come down and compromise on our price, at least this early in the campaign. An example of a difficult negotiation that I've had to overcome was a unit sale where we had an offer at $850,000 on a unit, and the previous unit, which was identical and sold only 2 months prior, sold for $870,000. This buyer wouldn't come up. I had no other buyers. The seller wouldn't come down. So it was a case where I had to compromise and pitch in some of my commission to make the deal happen. And sometimes that's what's necessary. Taking the high road, sacrificing a bit of your earnings to ensure the deal gets done, especially in a situation where you don't have any backup buyers. You have to look at it from a pragmatic point of view. 100% of 80% is better than 0% of 100%. It's better just to get the deal done, even if it means you're taking a clip on what you earn out of it. The biggest thing that sets me apart would be my ability to market property to a very broad audience across my social media channels. There aren't any agents in Brisbane that I'm aware of who have an audience as big as mine, so that would be my biggest point of difference. And second to that, I like to think that I'm a personable, relatable, empathetic person. So I can communicate very freely with my clients, and I feel like they can be very honest with me. There's no defensiveness in my persona, and nor do I get that from them. It's very reciprocable. It's all very open. So communication is a huge thing for me, and giving the buyers and the sellers a very open and safe space to speak freely is something that I feel like I create. In addition to social media, those two are probably my biggest points of difference. Real estate can quickly become hairy with contracts and money and all of these things at stake. It's a very emotional transaction because it's someone's home. So I handle confrontation and difficult scenarios with professionalism. I take my emotion out of it completely. I look at it as it is, and I also seek advice from experienced mentors. There are people in this industry who have been doing it for 10, 20, 30 years, and the chances are they've experienced the exact same situation that you're in. So go and consult with someone who's been there before. Take their experience, apply it to yours, and again, remove your emotion out of it. Speak to them in a very clinical way, the same way that a doctor or a professional would deliver information. Don't get emotional about it, and the situation will eventually resolve itself. But it's important that you don't get emotionally and personally invested in any sort of confrontational situation. That's what solicitors and conveyancers are for. You are there to sell the property and facilitate a transaction, not to get involved in any sort of emotional argument. So just keep it professional. I love the freedom that real estate provides me with. I am effectively a business owner and operator, which means I'm not really accountable to anyone other than my clients. That doesn't mean I sleep in until 11 and then clock off at 3 in the afternoon, but it does mean that I can choose when I'm on and when I'm off. I'm not doing a 9-to-5 set structure, which is something that I definitely wanted to avoid, and it's not for everyone. It is for some people, but for me, I wanted to create a lifestyle where I was more autonomous around when I was working and when I wasn't working. Real estate gives me that lifestyle. But that being said, it is a lot of work, and I'm okay with that. I work probably a lot more hours than most people in a 9 to 5, but I get to pick and choose when I do that. So everyone in real estate is different in terms of the clientele you work with. You have buyers who have bought many properties before, and then you have buyers who are at the beginning of their property purchasing journey who've never bought before. Everyone requires a different sort of service. The buyers who are new and have never purchased before require a high level of service and education sometimes. So putting things into simple terms that they can understand is generally helpful, and also connecting them with the right sort of advice, whether that be a good mortgage broker, a good solicitor. Knowing those people that you can refer them to is really important and valuable. And then on the other hand, where you have seasoned investors or professionals who are selling their family home, they've done this before, so coming to them with a very intelligent and professional point of view and service is something that will enable you to win more business as well. I would like to continue building up my audience and dominating that space of social media. I think it only opens more doors for me as a real estate agent and as a figure in the industry. I love property and I love promoting property. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to be 10 years from now, but I would like to think sort of at the peak of Brisbane's market. At the Olympics in 2032, I'm selling high-end real estate in Brisbane, as well as promoting property even globally around the world on my platform.